So we have new study tries and fails to show marijuana use is linked to crime. Now this goes back. I don't know. I'm sure most of you have heard the uh, the claim that marijuana is a gateway drug, and I know a lot of people realize that that's completely untrue, and you
Kind of
can't
like
get.
how Coca-Cola is a gateway drug to whiskey.
Yeah, yeah, it's like saying milk is a gateway. If you're gonna call marijuana a gateway drug, then you have to call milk a gateway drink, or water, or pop, or anything a gateway. More the way I look at it is more or less the main gateway drug that most of us start with is alcohol and tobacco. Those are your gateway drugs. Those are what almost everybody starts on. So this study is done. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this gentleman's name. I don't know if you want to.
I don't
It's
know, but apparently,
Gil something, the director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy.
yeah, he's the drug czar
Yes, he is
for
the
the
the,
country.
the cartel of the drug war.
Yeah.
Announced the results of a study that, at least according to him, demonstrated a link between marijuana use and crime. Now, this study analyzed data collected via the Arrestee Drug Abuse Monitoring Program, which is called Adam 2. Interesting name there. Which took urine samples from arrestees in 5 cities over a 21-day period last year. Marijuana remained the drug most often detected in the Adam 2 arrestees in all 5 sites in 2012, ranging from 37% of Adam 2 arrestees testing positive in Atlanta to 58% tested positive in Chicago. In the 3 of the 5 states, over half of the adult male arrestees tested positive for marijuana. So, our drug cartel man, who opposes marijuana legislation, which we, all know he is completely against, said in a speech Thursday that the study showed that the America needs to acknowledge and come to grips with the link between crime and substance use. Excuse me, but the correlation is not. um,
But correlation is not causation.
oh, there you go. Sorry,
Yes.
brain fart there. Just because a high percentage of arrestees tested positive for marijuana does not mean that smoking marijuana made them commit crimes.
Yeah, it wouldn't be more that people who are more likely to commit crime don't really give a crap about the laws in the first
Yeah.
place, so smoking marijuana is not exactly high on the list.
Of things not to do.
Right.
Yeah. But this is funny. So we have Steve Fox of the Marijuana Policy Project told a McClatchy reporter. I don't know. I think that's what it says. Is that what it says?
I don't know what McClatchy is.
Yeah, okay. We could release a study tomorrow showing that 98% of arrestees in the United States drink water 48 hours before engaging in criminal behavior. Does that mean that water causes crime? I mean, this is again goes to that extent of the gateway drug theory. There, it's mindless crap that they come up with to tell us that marijuana is so bad.
Yeah, it's trying to find a link where there actually isn't a link, and
They're
the
just
link that they
reaching.
do find is just backwards.
Yeah, and a lot of people fall for it. Though. That's the sad part. So a lot of people will
Yeah.
hear him say this, and they will be like, "Oh, yep, prison. Yep." They don't even look at it, research it, think about it. Nothing.
Right. The whole gateway drug thing is really dumb because
Hmm.
if you think about it, you're basically taking a sample size of people who have already done the harder drugs. So if your entire sample size is heroin addicts,
Yeah.
then you're obviously going to backtrack it and you're going to find out, yeah, they probably smoked marijuana before they did heroin.
Yeah.
But you got to take the inverse as well, and you take your sample size of everybody who has smoked marijuana and then go to how many of them have done heroin.
Hmm.
Probably not a
How
whole
many of them
lot.
have committed crimes?
Right. Other than your BS crime of having a plant in their possession. But it's a classic example of a what do you want to call it? An inappropriate sample. That they're basically taking the conclusion and putting that in their sample and then working backwards instead of working from a control sample and then going forward saying, okay, of these people who have smoked marijuana, how many people have done heroin? Not a whole lot. So obviously there are plenty of people who smoke marijuana who will never do heroin. So you can't really say it's a gateway, because if it's a gateway, that means everybody who smokes marijuana will do heroin in the future. Which is obviously that one. I'll never do heroin. Yeah. So the whole gateway is moot if there are people who never do the harder drugs after doing marijuana, which is just kind of, it's so stupid. But yeah, it comes back to that's like saying Coca-Cola is a gateway drug to whiskey. Yeah. It's a misnomer. I mean, obviously anybody who drinks whiskey has probably drank Coca-Cola. But that's just odds and statistics. Yeah, exactly. Someone mix it together.
Yeah. Someone's like to mix the two together, actually.
But yeah, it's completely skewed sample, and this is just one of those statistics that isn't actually a statistic because the sample's junk. It is.
Completely.
All right, so we have.
Interesting.
This is actually a pretty interesting story. This is back out of Illinois again, and what is that? Batavia, Illinois. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Batavia, Illinois. A high school teacher is facing disciplinary action after he informed his students of their Fifth Amendment rights in connection to a survey that was given out at the school asking about illegal drug use. So, this particular teacher, John,
the kids they don't have to say anything. Come on.
Yeah. So, this particular teacher, John Dryden, he noticed that after picking up survey forms from his mailbox about 10 minutes before class that day, he noticed that they had student name on them. So did they already put the students' names on them prior to sending them out to the teachers? That's kind of odd. Anyways, the survey asked him about
sneakily find out where they need to put their undercover cops at.
Yeah. Anyways, the survey apparently asked about drinking and drug use among other subjects, and this particular teacher, I'm guessing is Mr. Dryden, who had just finished teaching a unit on the Bill of Rights, was worried that the students may feel obligated to incriminate themselves, which obviously is against
they were going for.
which is what they're going for, and is blatantly against your Fifth Amendment right, or any your right in general, regardless if the Fifth Amendment existed in general, or existed at all. And he decided to tell his students that they did not have to complete the forms if in doing so it would involve them admitting to illegal behavior. Yeah. And now the school board is all up in a tizzy about it. And they say, "How dare
you educate our children properly?"
Yeah, he may face. It says he may face pretty much as little as a letter of remedy placed in his employment file, which could include consequences up to dismissal. So this guy could get fired for teaching kids that they have the right to remain silent and not incriminate themselves. Yeah. Wow. So right now, there's actually a petition that is people are collecting signatures to ask the board to refrain from disciplining him. So
he should get props. Is what he should get.
No kidding.
This guy shouldn't get in trouble. This guy should be
This guy should get a
pumped
reward.
up. Yeah, he should get some sort of sweet reward type thing for this. Yeah, obviously, this is a teacher that cares about his children and teaches them how to protect themselves and how to invoke their rights as people of this country.
So yeah, right now that petition they have a goal of 8,000 signatures. They currently have 7,017. So obviously the outpouring is pretty high. So we will definitely include a link to that right at the top of our show prep. So people can go slap their signature on them and
sign that bad boy up.
Yeah, because this guy was doing exactly what he should have been doing.
Protecting your children. You should support him.
Yes. For somebody who is actually protecting your children at school.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, this is just like Seattle. We seem to be coming back to Albuquerque constantly.
Yes, that's what it looks like. This last month has been Albuquerque.
Yeah. So hopefully we have a call out to those guys. So hopefully we can get some people that are more local. Yeah, that we can get them onto our interview series.
Mm-hmm. So we have the crime bulletin for the Albuquerque Police Chief Ray Schultz. Retires under pressure is the headline of the story here. So we have Mayor Martin Chavez appointed Ray Schultz to the position of Albuquerque Police Chief in 2006. A few years later, Mayor Richard Berry reappointed him to the job. Since Chief Schultz's reappointment, an unusually high percentage of Albuquerque police officers have been involved in cases of excessive force and police-involved shootings. Since 2010, Albuquerque officers have shot more than 35 citizens. 18 of those shootings have been fatal. This is one of the highest per capita police-involved shooting rates in the country, which is pretty amazing because I thought New York was beating the crap out of that.
Well, it's per capita. It's not total.
Okay, so that would be true then. No. Okay, yeah. So this year the city awarded $10 million to the family of an Iraq war veteran shot to death by an Albuquerque police officer.
Isn't that crazy? Freaking $10 million.
I remember that story. If I remember it correctly, I remember hearing about that story. And it was a ridiculous, basically, raid that was... It sounded like, if I remember correctly, I could be wrong here, but I thought it was that they had actually raided the wrong house. He tried to protect his home with a weapon, and they killed him for it. Or it was the fact that it was either that or it was the other story that was they were concerned because of his post-traumatic stress and they rushed the house, and of course he tried to defend his house and they shot him anyway. So it was one of the two if I remember correctly, but it was an incident that did not need to involve shooting anyone. So basically we have the police chief is stepping down because of the pressure that's being put on him because of the fact of his police force using extreme excessive force and obviously using their trigger-happy fingers all too often. The chief of police announced that he'll be... he's claiming that he's going to retire to spend more time with his family. Basically, he actually says, in all fairness, that Chief Schultz says that because of the police unions that we've discussed this many times, that firing a police officer has become extremely difficult. So even the police chief himself is announcing the fact that removing an officer that obviously does not belong there is extremely hard and impossible for them to do because of the police unions. And basically, in the article here, I like this quote. I'm not sure if the person that wrote this article came up with this quote or not, but it says, "In the old days, civilian safety came first, officer safety second. Today, priorities are officer safety and then job security." Oh, I don't know about you, Eric. What do you have on the opinion on that with the police unions there?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of, we hear this almost every week, that these people have been disciplined so many times and fired so many times, but then took, what do they call them, a review board, or that's all made up of various police lackeys that end up just putting these people right back on the force and basically protecting them from any type of discipline that would actually be discipline. I mean, these people always get, suspended with pay. Mm-hmm. They're getting a vacation for doing a crappy job.
Yep.
That's what that means.
Like that.
And
I could do something crappy and get paid to go on vacation.
Yeah, I know. That'd be great if I lost my company like thousands of dollars and they sent me on vacation. That'd be sweet.
Here, take a week off. Here's some pay. Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to do this more often.
Yeah. So it's like there's no actual punishment for doing something wrong, which really sucks. So.
Yeah. No, it completely does.
This one was I couldn't, when I saw the headline, I couldn't believe it. But it's the headline is "Pimps in the Police Force," and it says that an officer pimps out his own wife. I just did a triple take when I saw this headline. It was so insane. So now there is go figure, this is out of Baltimore. So a Baltimore police officer is accused of human trafficking and prostituting his own wife. Lamon, is that Lamon? Lamon Mahana? Lemon Mahana, I don't know. Was earlier this month charged with with human trafficking and prostituting his own wife when the Baltimore Child Recovery Task Force, who were investigating a human trafficking case, came across his online ad that eventually led to him and his wife. An undercover officer with the task force arranged to meet a young-looking female from an online escort service ad at a hotel near the Baltimore airport. When the officer met with the woman, she was identified as Marissa Braun. When the young female made an offer to the undercover officer to have sex with her for $100, the task force intervened and placed her under arrest, and then also arrested her husband, who was apparently waiting for his wife outside the hotel. Yeah, this is an interesting case. So yeah, you have a police officer pimping out his own wife.
I guess the city's not paying him enough, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, it says Marissa later revealed to officers that her husband would pay for an online ad with his credit card and would then drive her from date to date, or quote-unquote date to date. So from one person to another, where he would wait outside each location for her. So
what was he planning on doing if something went wrong? Pull out his badge or something?
Yeah, I don't know how did he think this was a good idea?
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. What happens when something goes south and somebody hurts his wife? What's he do then?
So in this particular case, he was not given a paid vacation. He was suspended without pay.
Good.
And subsequently charged with one count of the human trafficking and prostitution. And his wife was charged with one count of prostitution. And both were released on RO.
How do you get human trafficking out of prostitution? I'm just curious.
I think it's the pimping side of it.
Well,
I think that's
human trafficking then, huh?
Yeah, so he got the human trafficking
and
prostitution, and she just got the prostitution. So he was the He was the pimp in this situation, so he was the he was the trafficker.
Ah, gotcha.
And it's great because the deputy police commissioner for Baltimore Police Department said this allegation is a disgrace and an embarrassment to every member, both current and retired, who served for the Baltimore Police Department. Yeah, there's a laundry list of embarrassing and disgraceful allegations against a lot of Baltimore PD. So this is not exactly new for them, at least. All right. So Seattle has some more fun nanny brother, big brother,
Keep
whatever.
Going with their surveillance state, don't they?
Yeah.
Gotta watch everybody. Next thing they'll be doing is listening. Oh wait, they already did that with the Associated Press. So we've got people basically throwing a tissy fit about the Seattle Police Department wanting to put up more surveillance cameras. So we have the Seattle Police Department holding public announcement meetings where people can show support or opposition to the cameras and discuss what they're doing, what they're trying to do. From what I've gotten out of this is they're talking about Albuquerque Point and wanting to put cameras up there. And
You got muted.
Am I back?
Back up like a second, like a sentence.
All right. So there's some confusion on what the idea of what they're trying to do with these cameras at Albuquerque Point here. We've got comments below this article where people are basically arguing about the fact that they wanted to put these cameras up because they're saying that crime is bad there, but yet they're finding out that the police department is trying to point the cameras at the water. So I don't know what good putting cameras at the water is going to do. Protect against crime. But I guess the SPD set up an email for these cameras for people to questions, concerns, comments. They've received about 20 emails so far, 80% of these emails expressing opposition and concern about these cameras. It's basically pointing out the fact that the Seattle Police Department is trying to turn into a giant nanny state like many other large cities in the United States are. They have already, from what I understand, at the Golden Gardens, has installed 28 cameras near the Golden Gardens area. Let's see where. Okay, now I lost my spot here.
They're just kind of going all off on that. They're putting cameras everywhere.
Well, yeah, basically, it's just like any other large city, D.C., New York. It's about setting up a surveillance state and watching everything, and then complaining at us when we record them.
Right. Because
how dare you record us when there's 20 other cameras already recording what's going on right now?
Right. Well, those particular tapes can go missing. They can seem to conveniently go missing whenever.
Oh yeah, the camera wasn't working. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It basically just highlights the fact that Seattle's turning into a complete nanny state and wants to record everything that you do.
Yeah, and those cameras aren't cheap either. That's
when they put these up, it's very expensive and it's a lot of taxpayers' dollars.
Yeah, that was another story I was looking at tonight, that vandals had taken down an Albuquerque surveillance unit.
I laughed about that. It made me chuckle pretty good.
Yeah. So it even right there now. So what are they going to do? Are they going to put up a new one, or
Yeah.
So yeah, in Albuquerque, some vandals had taken down a couple of the cameras there.
And they set up a mobile surveillance unit that was watching the park.
Yeah, it was one of those that
happened, and they were watching for something.
Yeah, it was one of those where they would set up it kind of looks like one of those things that they'd set up in a area where
It's kind of
people
like a
speed through a
construction
lot.
zone. Yeah, like a
Yeah,
construction radar thing or something. Kind of what it looks like.
yeah, like a generator with some stuff hanging on it. And,
Big tall
those
pole
aren't
off
very
top of it.
secure.
Yeah.
So, and that thing cost apparently $70,000. So,
For a little
yeah,
trailer with some wheels on it and a camera, huh?
yeah, they're not exactly secure, anyways. So, yeah, and yeah, it's ridiculous that we are now facing all this state surveillance. I really don't care about private surveillance. Well, not surveillance, but surveillance of people's private property.
Yeah, one's property is completely acceptable. You're protecting your property by having video surveillance. So
Yeah,
if something does happen, it can be found out what happened.
right. But surveilling the general public is kind of ridiculous, at least when it's done by the state.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of dumb. So this story is coming out of Indiana, and I find it slightly odd that this is the case, but it sounds like the Indiana National Guard Counter Drug Task Force has been training law enforcement agencies.
This is crazy on this story.
Yeah, and it's not just and it's just not Indiana. It sounds
it's all over.
the first sentence is state, local, and federal law enforcement agencies have teamed up with the Indiana National Guard to participate in counter drug operations training in Atterbury, and that's in Indiana. So law enforcement professionals from the Indiana State Police, the Indianapolis Metro Police, the DEA, and various local law enforcement agencies have all converged for a 3 days of intensive training with the Indiana National Guard counter drug program prior to the start of the Indiana marijuana growing season. Apparently, this is a growing season for pot in Indiana.
Well, yeah, that's how most you start in the early spring and you harvest in the summer. Because it's easier to grow it outside.
This seems just like a colossal waste of money. Just going, it's a freaking plant, and it's getting more and more annoying that they're involving helicopters and all these military tactics.
Local law enforcement agencies how to rappel out of helicopters on ropes. I don't see the necessariness in that at all for busting someone for plants. I don't understand why that's necessary at all.
I mean, this seems ridiculously expensive.
Oh, of course. I mean, you know what those helicopters cost to fly. I mean, they were teaching multiple agencies how to do these types of things in the helicopters. It means they're flying the thing constantly.
Yeah, and what they're going to be doing during the season is that they are going to be flying constantly trying to find plants.
So they're going to surveil everyone from the air. Constantly.
Yeah, and this happens I know it happens in West Virginia and Kentucky all the time, where they are just constantly flying every friggin' day trying to find, plots of marijuana growing on private land, or mostly they're searching federal land. Mm-hmm. So they're searching public land where people decide to plant a few plants here and there. But yeah, it's such a waste of money.
For themselves to consume, not selling it.
Who knows? Who cares? It doesn't really matter.
No.
Either way.
It's a plant. Again, it's a plant. It's unnecessary to go after people for.
Yeah. So it is just further militarization of our police force when it's really unnecessary, and especially for the task at hand that they are going after or using this particular tactics to go after.
Yeah,
it seems kind of overkill.
Completely. No, I don't really agree with the military training the police force in any circumstance on anything. because of the fact that it just militarizes our police force that doesn't need to be militarized at all. This is supposed to be a civilian force to protect and serve, not combat.
Right, and you know that now that they're getting all this money, they're going to expect to continue to get all this money year after year, so they can just inflate their budgets more and more, and they know that they're going to get the money because they are holding guns to the heads of the taxpayers, and they know they're going to get their money.
Mm-hmm. Completely. Sad day.
So we talked about earlier in the show about accountability at the individual level, which it seems like Minneapolis could really use that particular hunk of wisdom that we have shared upon the world.
Completely. So we have Minneapolis pays $3 million in police misconduct case. So we have these two officers have been upstanding examples of who. Oh wow! Let me try that one more time there. So this is a continued story. So this is maybe out of context a little bit here.
Oh, you're looking at page 2.
Am I? Oh, why am I on page 2? Oh, that's why. I'm like, wait, continued. Where's the beginning of this story? Okay, here we go. All right, now we're on the first page. Sorry about that. All right, so the payout to the family of David Smith was the second largest for police misconduct in Minneapolis history. The city of Minneapolis paid $3 million out to the family of a man who died after a struggle with two Minneapolis police officers. There's also a video in this article. The Minneapolis City Council approved $3.075 million settlement on Friday, resulting in a federal lawsuit filed by the family of David Smith, a 28-year-old man who died about a week after the struggle at a downtown Minneapolis YMCA in 2010. The death of Smith, who was mentally ill, raised questions about the prone resistance and highly controversial police technique for restraining suspects. To subdue Smith, the officers forced Smith onto his stomach, then placed a knee in his back and held him down for about 4 minutes, which the family attorney says made it impossible for him to breathe. And I could actually vouch for that. I've had that done to me. It doesn't feel good.
Especially for
contort you, shove a knee in your back, and it's extremely hard to take a breath.
Yeah, and that's what the medical examiner found, that he died of mechanical asphyxia. Mm-hmm. That's horrible. That's a horrible way to die.
Basically, it's almost like suffocating. Basically, he wasn't physically capable of taking a breath because of their restraint. Which probably made it almost impossible, because when you're in that, it's hard to talk because it's hard to take a breath in to be able to push air out and say anything.
Right.
So there's a lot of positions that I've seen that the police forces use to subdue people that make it extremely difficult to breathe or other functions that are necessary to living.
Yeah, so this kind of goes back to the police have no personal liability, and this is all going to come out of the taxpayer money, the taxpayer's pocket. And actually, right here on the sidebar, there's Minneapolis payouts for allegations of police misconduct, and it has a year and amount. It has 2006 is $660,000. 2007 is $5.7 million. 2008 is $230,000. In 2009, it was $1.5 million. In 2010, it was almost $800,000. In 2011, it was $4.2 million. In 2012, it was $814,000. So, and then now 2013, this one case was $3 million. So, wow.
And this is the thing I don't get. The reason the officers responded to this call was the fact that Smith was supposedly acting bizarrely, tossing a basketball around and frightening youths on the 6th floor. So because this guy, and this is what they said, he was mentally ill, because he's acting strangely, we must call the police and have the police hurt him until he dies.
Yeah. And even if he wasn't mentally ill, having somebody in that position for 4 minutes is unacceptable anyways.
But I don't even get with the fact of why we need to. Shouldn't a YMCA that has 6 floors have some form of security?
Yeah, and the police are not the first people to call anyways.
They have dealt with this situation in probably a better manner.
Right, or at least medical professionals on scene. If there's a medical professional on scene, maybe they could have helped figure out what was actually going on. They could have taken a lot more steps than confronting the guy to begin with. They could have just observed and make sure he wasn't hurting anybody until somebody with some sort of professional qualification of treating mental illness or some sort of medical professional that could have assisted in this particular case and getting him to, I don't know if he was acting erratically or it doesn't sound like he was harming anybody specifically, so they could have just stayed back, observed, and waited for somebody who actually knew what they were doing and could actually interact with this individual to figure out what was going on instead of going directly to physical force, which is completely unnecessary and seems to be the first thing that they jump to instead of doing what they're supposed to do and de-escalating the situation and not
protecting people.
Right.
Yes.
I
think it falls more into the lines of the category of people jumping the gun too soon and calling the police when anything goes wrong.
Yeah,
and see that far too often. And I think a lot of these situations that end up out of hand where the police are abusing their power is because someone jumped the gun in the first place in calling them. I mean, most of the time you can handle a situation for yourself. Most of the time, you can de-escalate a situation. It doesn't take the police because most of the time when the police comes, it actually escalates the situation worse.
Right, and that's one of the huge problems that shouldn't be the case. If even if somebody does call the police,
no,
the police should not escalate it's the police's fault to begin with for escalating the situation. Yeah. They should be better trained to deal with all types of situations and make better judgments on, is this person hurting anybody? No. Well, what's actually going on? Well, it looks like he's, acting kind of weird or is mentally unstable. All right, well, why don't we get somebody down here who's a professional who can deal with this? Right. There's no need to bum rush the guy and take him down physically if he's not doing. If nobody's
he hasn't hurt anyone, he's not hurting you. Why do you need to hurt him?
Right. The police should know better, and that's kind of the top of the
when you put someone down in a position like that and your knee in their back and you sit there for 4 minutes, you're basically treating that person as an animal. Yeah. I mean, you have no respect for that person. So you're going to literally sit there with your knee in his back for 4 minutes just holding him. You obviously have no respect for human life or an individual's well-being if you're just going to sit there on him with your knee that hard into their back. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, this is why we need peace officers, not police officers or law enforcement officers. Yes. We need people who can appropriately judge the situation, figure out what's going wrong, and figure out a reasonable and the least harmful solution to the problem. This was obviously
all the wrong ways.
a very undesirable solution, and from everything that it seems here, it was completely over the top and completely unnecessary. and it should have been de-escalated in a more tactful fashion and not through physical force. That's about that. So I'm bouncing, like my video's bouncing.
Yeah, your screen's bouncing.
Oh, I can't sit still. I have a problem with that. Like,
it's bouncing your camera, whatever you're bouncing.
Oh yeah, it's me bouncing on the floor and the floor bouncing my desk.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't possess the ability to sit still. So
that's all good.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those.
I have a hard time too.
Always as a kid, so yeah.
I always blamed it on ADHD, so we'll just go with that. Yeah.
All right.
We'll blame it on that.
All right. So yeah, that will wrap up tonight's episode. Remember to tune in tomorrow at 9 p.m. and we'll be talking to Carlos Miller of Photography is Not a Crime. I really look forward to talking to him because
I'm excited too.
he's a cool guy, and his website's awesome and is all up. Has a new thing almost every day, if not a couple of things a day. Mm-hmm. Also remember that we will be doing one more show in this particular format next week on next Tuesday at 9 o'clock like normal. And then starting on June 12th, we will be moving to Wednesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, and that will be on fprnradio.com. It'd be great if you can join us live because there's a live chat. It's going to be a much better produced show, more along the lines of a regular radio show, and we can also take live calls. Yeah, we can take live calls if we want to. So that would be great. So June 12th, fprnradio.com, and that will be from then on. It will be Wednesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So come join us then. We also have a lot of feelers out for additional interviews to add to our interview series. We got
still will be doing.
Yeah, we'll still be doing in this format, and so we'll still have that. I think we got like 4 or 5
out right now.
Almost lined up. So it'll be good. We'll be jam packed, and hopefully we have somebody special for our inaugural episode on FPRN, which will be great. So make sure to go check out fprnradio.com. They do live shows on Wednesdays, and once we go on, they're going to start opening up Saturdays. So go check them out this week. We're not over there yet, but you should go listen anyways because it's good stuff.
You got some good content on there. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So again, my name is Eric. You can find me over at freerockpress.com and ohiocopblock.org. And with me tonight, as always, is Adam from Spokane Cop Block. So until next week, everybody be safe out there. And remember that badges don't grant extra rights.